Hello there, and welcome to this fourth and last lesson of Unit 1, The Way We Are. And this last lesson, you might have already figured, is a reading lesson. And before I proceed with the lesson, I should remind you that many people don't place enough importance on the reading skill. Most people think that they can just do with listening and practicing. And they don't realize that the quickest way to your brain to process language is not to hear the language, unless you're highly auditory as a learner, but through the eyes, because what you can see is easier for the brain to process than what you can hear. What you can hear is only abstract in your mind, and it's very hard for you to process and memorize and remember and internalize if it's fuzzy and hazy, if it only reaches your brain through the ear, like I said, because it's abstract. But when you read the language, you make it easier for your brain to process that language, internalize it, memorize it, make use of it. So, all this is to tell you, please don't skip the reading part. Could be a little more boring to you than the other activities, but it's certainly better for your learning process. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to allow you to pause the video, read the little blog. By the way, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to read and understand people's profiles on the internet. Nowadays when you go to LinkedIn, for example, and you read lots of information about somebody, you should be able to read people's profiles, people's curriculum vitas, CVs, resumes, and understand what those entries are all about. So we'll go about these one by one. I'll let you freeze the image. I'll zoom in, read, and then I'll ask you some questions, and I'd like you to remember key information about these people, and answer me from what you remember. If you can't, then you can pause the video and take a look, sneak a peek at the text back and answer me. So go ahead, pause the video, and read about Mariana. All right. First question. What is her major? And if you're wondering what major is, it simply means the field of study. The field of study that you pursue, especially in college, at the university. Biology, humanities, mathematics, IT, all these are majors. So what is Mariana's major? Where's she from? So another alternative to saying where are you from is to say where are you based? Where are you based? Where are you from? And where are you based doesn't necessarily means where are you from, because where are you from could indicate where were you born. So I was born in, I don't know, she was born and raised in Sao Paulo, right? Born and raised in Sao Paulo, but now she lives in Italy, in Milan. So she was born in a place and she lives now in a totally different place. So when you say where are you based, you're asking the person, where are you now? Where are you operating from? Where do you live now? All right, now what does she do in her pastime? What does Mariana like to do in her free time? All right, so you should be able to answer me from, something from here. All right, let's move to the next person. And the next person is called Mateo. Here you go. Pause the video, read the text. All right, first question. What do Mateo's friends think of him? What do his friends think of him? All right. What are Mateo's future plans? What is he planning on to do in the future? Okay. And finally, uh, what's a what's a detail Mateo shares here that lots of people don't know about him? You see, I'm trying to rephrase the question in a different way than what you wrote, or I'm sorry, than what you read. So something that lots of people don't know about Matteo, but he shares with people in this blog. All right, moving on to the next person. All right, question. Uh, what's this young lady's worst habit? What is her worst habit? Okay, she says here, I'm always doing something, meaning she's very active, right? She moves a lot. She does lots of things, and she finds it hard to relax. Some people are like that, meaning she doesn't take the time to think about herself. We're talking here about self-care. What skills does she have? What is she good at? That's another question for skills. What is she good at? Now, you should be able to answer me with, she's good at doing this, doing that. All right, moving on to the last person. Ahmed Abdessalam. All right, question. What does he do? What does he do? What's his profession? What's his occupation? What's his job? All these are synonyms to the question, what do you do? What is your profession? What is your occupation? What do you do for a living? Let me write these options. Maybe you know them, maybe you don't. What do you do? If you don't know any of these, again, it's good to jot them down, to write them down. It'll help you memorize them. What is your profession, occupation, job, or what do you do for a living? What's his secret talent? The thing that he does that many people don't know about. All right, and last question. Why did Ahmed choose to study online? All right, good. Moving on. A little bit of vocabulary that you should get. Now, you should be able to remember the use of these adjectives: experience, disadvantaged, humble, considering, diverse, introverted. Start with the first one. To experience something. This word featured in the first text of Mariana from Sao Paulo, who lives in Milan. Uh, all right, I should have contact with my mother's culture, or I should ignore my mother's culture. And the answer, of course, is to have contact with, to experience a culture, to have contact with that culture. Next, disadvantaged. If we say this is a disadvantaged population that lives in these poor quarters or poor neighborhoods, does it mean they're poor or rich? Of course, it means they're poor. So another word for poor, and it's a more, let's say, technical term. It's a technical term, like especially when you're talking about funding some sort of project to help a community that lives in poverty. Somehow, I really don't know why people don't choose to use the word poor. So they use the word disadvantaged or socially disadvantaged. You say this is a socially disadvantaged population, that lives in the countryside and in the suburbs, socially disadvantaged. Humble, I gave you this word before, the noun is humility. So, are you humble when you say, I think I'm really good at things? Or when you say, I don't think I'm really good at things? Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is the best example to illustrate the adjective humble, but of course it's the second one. When you don't claim that you know everything, that's humility. And when you claim to people, when you say to people that you're the best at something or at everything, that's exactly what arrogance is. Considering, this is something I am thinking about. Yeah, when you consider something. Now, this is different from considerate. I consider something, meaning it's something you think about. For example, I'm considering doing a master's in English literature, for instance. Meaning I'm thinking about it. It's in my options. So, yes, diverse, diverse comes from diversity, like cultural diversity, when there's a mix of cultures somewhere. The students are all different. Yeah, that's diversity. If they're all the same, then there is no diversity, there is conformity. And finally, introverted as opposed to extroverted. An introverted person is a person that keeps to himself or herself. They're not outgoing, they don't like to be around people. I am not outgoing at all. That's the meaning of introverted. Extroverted would be I am very outgoing. All right? Now let's move to a last part of this lesson. It's a listening part. Listen to 5 people talk about themselves, match the people and the things they will probably say next. And by the way, this could be a very good chance for you to practice talking about yourself. You know that in many, many social situations, whether it be in class, whether you're taking an interview in English, whether you're just trying to meet somebody new, trying to blend in, fit in a new group, one of the things that people expect of you is to tell them something about yourself. And we hardly ever think about doing that. When we're on our own, alone, solo, just by ourselves, we never think of thinking about ourselves, describing how we are. Some people just don't know how they are because they never take the time to think about it. So when you're asked that question, often than not, you don't really know what to say. So maybe this is a good chance for you to reflect on yourself, reflect on the qualities you have, on your talents, what you can do, preferences, choices, and formulate them in eloquent and well articulated sentences. So when you are asked that question, you always have something pleasant to say. So I'm going to let you hear what the first person says, and then I'll ask you questions.
Lesson D. Is that a fact? 2. Listening. Things you don't know about me. A and B. Listen to 5 people talk about themselves. Anna.
I started lessons when I was in elementary school. I had to practice every day. My parents were incredibly strict about that. But at least they didn't pressure me about anything else. I guess they thought I was pretty talented. I mean, everyone said I had a beautiful voice. So, yeah, now I'm in a local choir and we perform in competitions. And sometimes I perform at weddings and things. I guess.
All right. It's already done here, of course. It says Anna. She says, I'm a fairly good singer. Fairly good singer. Now, pay attention to the adverb she used before good. She didn't say, I'm a very good singer. If she said that, that would be a little too arrogant. But to say, I'm a fairly good singer, it means you're a little above average. And that's fine to say about yourself. You say, I'm a fairly good IT manager. I'm a fairly good web developer. It's okay. People expect that. And when people hear you say use this expression, I'm a fairly good at something, they know that you're being humble and it's good. Okay, so what kind of singer is she? If you can pause the video, go back to her answer and answer me this question. What kind of singer is she? What kind of songs maybe does she, or genre does she sing? The answer is choir, right? Choir. She does choir. And choir is the group singing. The group singing. When a group of people sing in harmonies, think of it as I don't know if you listen to classical music, but all the operas that you might be listening to, there is some sort of choir behind them. Different people singing different tunes melodically in harmony, and what you hear in the end is something beautiful. Next.
Kevin. It's extremely useful, I think. I mean, when you go for a job, it's a good skill to say you have. I was incredibly lucky, though, because my mom's from Japan, so she spoke to me all the time in Japanese when I was little, so that helped a lot. And I think I have a pretty good ear. I find it's not difficult at all to learn new words. I mean, I can pick up vocabulary pretty easily. So, yeah, I want to learn Mandarin Chinese, but for now, I can say.
All right, so where is he good at? Kevin, what is he good at? Can he play two instruments very well? Pretty good cook? Extremely allergic to nuts? Speak two languages fluently, and of course, that's the last one. He speaks two languages fluently, speaks Japanese, and he speaks English. My question to you is, how did he learn Japanese, or how did he pick it up? Yep, the answer is that when he was little, his mother always used to talk to him in Japanese, and that helped him pick up the language. By the way, if you're asking, is pick up learn? Yes and no. Pick up is when you learn something effortlessly without making efforts. Say you go live in Germany for 5, 6, 7 years, and if you blend in and mix with the locals more often, then you will pick up Deutsch. You will pick up German. You won't learn it because learning is kind of using the tools to deliberately learn, get a tutor, teacher to teach you, read books, listen, take notes, write down vocabulary. That's learning. But pick up, you just do it naturally, just like children, just like we do with our mother languages. Next.
Jen.
Well, it started when I was just a little kid. My parents gave me some to eat, and I got really sick. At first, we didn't know why, but now I know I can't automatically just have a cookie or anything. Like, I'm always asking, what's in it? Or what's it made from? Especially at restaurants. But at least I know what the problem is, so yeah.
Yep, so you should have figured that this lady here is extremely allergic to nuts. Allergic, of course, is a condition. It's when your body reacts differently to something. Could be food, could be a smell, could be pollen, could be dust. So this lady is allergic to nuts, and this is a common state. Nuts, right? So she eats nuts, maybe her face swells, or her larynx swells, so she has an allergy.
Patrick, I fell in love with it when I was really young. My dad was always taking me to hear Irish music, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful. And on my birthday, he knew exactly what I wanted, and he got it for me. Of course, it took a while to learn to play. I fell in love with it when I was really young.
But at least I know what the problem is, so yeah.
Patrick, I fell in love with it when I was really young. My dad was always taking me to hear Irish music, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful. And on my birthday, he knew exactly what I wanted, and he got it for me. Of course, it took a while to learn to play properly. It's incredibly difficult. But after a couple of years of lessons, I got pretty good at it. Then later on, I got a flute, too. So now...
All right, and of course, Tom can play two instruments really well. Last question about Tom. How did he become interested in playing instruments? Try to go back to the scripts and answer the question. So yeah, the answer is that his father was always taking him. See, we're using the expressions. This is what we call language recycling. All the language items that you see in the previous lessons, A, B, and C, you see them in this last lesson of listening and reading, so that the language is recycled, so that you keep reminded of the same grammar point and language point that you learn along the lessons. So, describing a habit of his father's, my father was always taking me to hear Irish music. So, he fell in love since childhood. All right, so like I said, a last exercise for you would be to take the time to write down sentences, maybe use these structures that we've seen, always plus present continuous, to describe your habits. Use at least to shed light on some positive aspects of your personality, and of course all the adjectives that we've seen. So the last practice that you might have after watching all 4 lessons of Unit 1 is to write down a sort of personal biography. Who are you? What do you do? What are your skills? What are your talents? What are you good at? What do you do for a living? Do you make friends easily? What's your daily routine? All the stuff that is about you as a person. Try to write it down in English. That way, it will be easy for you again to express it whenever you're asked to talk about yourself. Until I see you for the second unit, stay well and keep learning. Ta-ta!